convene the Parker Town Council for April 17th, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m. All council members are present. Tonight, we are fortunate to have two members of Troop 16 as well as Troop 280 to lead us in the flag salute. So Dirk Patton, Jacob Wingate, and Logan Nelson, if you'll come down. So you know the drill. You take it from here, tell us to stand, and lead the way.
May I please rise? Please rise and pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be hearing a little bit more from Dirk in the next during special presentation, but we also have a couple special guests with us tonight. Where are they? So from Aprirl High School, we have Nathan Gould, Sam Kreidelbaugh. Did I get that pretty close? Close enough. With a name like Toborg, you know, you got to get close. And Cam Montes. So welcome. They are doing their AP government class, and this around here for the town council, this is known as SHAP time around because we have every AP student coming down to chat with us. But we have a couple of special presentations tonight. So first up will be Victims' Rights Week. With Madison's going to come down and receive a proclamation from the council, and then we're going to tell you about a phenomenal Eagle Scout project that Dirk did. So, Madison, do you want to join me down here? We get to do this with every year, so it's great. And then next week we have Victims' Rights Week.
Yes.
The dinner.
Yes, the ceremony.
The ceremony.
Award ceremony.
All right. All right. Well, we're the council and myself, we're very proud to be able to do this every year with you. And I'm just going to read the proclamation regarding Victims' Rights Week. Whereas in 1982, the President's Task Force on Victims of Crime envisioned a national commitment to more equitable and supportive response to victims. And whereas Crime Victims' Rights Act passed, let me do that over. Whereas Crime Victims' Rights Acts passed in Colorado and at the federal level guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate and use their voice in the criminal justice process. And whereas every crime has a victim, these victims are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and children, and including and elevating their voices makes certain that they are heard and seen, which creates a path to forging and sustaining community trust. And whereas survivors' experience can serve as a catalyst for implementing innovative programs, shifting existing programs in new directions, and changing policies and practices that prevent survivors from accessing services or pursuing justice. And whereas, I think you guys threw an extra whereas in here this time.
Yeah,
Couple, all right. All right. Whereas the town of Parkview values the importance of helping crime victims by amplifying their voice and creating environments where survivors have the confidence they will be heard, believed, and supported. And whereas the National Crime Victims' Rights Week is a time to celebrate the progress achieved, raise awareness for victims' rights and services, and stand with our families, neighbors, friends, and colleagues by honoring the experience of victims and allowing them to find autonomy and empowerment. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Toborg, Mayor of the Town of Parker, do hereby proclaim April 23rd through 29th, 2023 as Victims' Rights Week in the town of Parker, Colorado, and urge all residents to support and stand with victims of crime in our communities whose lives have been forever altered. So thank you. Do you want to say anything about?
I mean, I can. I want to thank you all first and foremost for doing this solely because those of us that are in at least the advocacy roles are really excited about the theme this year. It's all about survivors and their voices. So it's a time to actually amplify that. People who often don't get to have a voice, don't feel like they have a voice, finally get to do that this year as the theme, which we're really excited about. So we do appreciate you guys thinking about survivors and victims and encouraging others to do the same. So we're very excited. As far as Victims' Rights Week, as Mayor had mentioned, we've got a ceremony next week that's just going to honor all kinds of people, survivors, those in law enforcement, those in the community, and so we're very, very excited.
We can't wait. All right. Well, let's go get a picture with you and.
Can we clap yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I want to clap. Please. Why am I getting in front? Why am I being pushed? Okay. Can you see? Here, I'll go down off my heels.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. All right, great.
Okay, don't be
Okay.
afraid. Wait,
Oh.
council members. Okay, ready? Ready? 2 pictures, 1, 2, 3. One more. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
All right, so next up I need Mr. Patton, Mr. Dirk Patton. And much to the delight of a couple of our council members, Dirk, you're a senior at?
Ponderosa.
All right. So as you entered into the building, you may have seen this big patriotic looking red, white, and blue box out there. So Dirk is now, you're now an Eagle Scout.
Coming up in the next.
Okay, all right, so on your way. So Dirk's Eagle Scout project was to do a flag collection box for when you have an old flag that you need it taken care of. This is the guy that's going to take care of that for you. So Dirk, why don't you tell us a little bit, how did you come about this project?
Well, actually, he came to one of our Court of Honors and kind of talked about us being the official flag shooting partner. And that really started the whole process going. I originally wanted to make a trail near our high school that connects to middle school and high school. That didn't really work out, but kind of you coming to our Court of Honor really sparked the flag hope in my mind. And as I talked with adults in our troop who kind of already helped and kind of ran and worked with people in town to collect flags, I kind of figured it might be a nice way to streamline the process, kind of reduce all the communication and tension that they mentioned.
Right. So then you started by creating a box, but then your scout leader said that's not enough, right? What was the next step in terms of leadership that you had then?
He recommended that I have another way to show leadership. This is kind of the main idea of the Eagle Project. The way I added on to my project is I ran a ceremony, and that kind of started our troop off on a new style of flag ceremony. Our troopers really struggled with having fire-based flag ceremonies because of the amount of burn bans and restrictions with burning in our areas. So we've started a new style of ceremony where we cut the strips off of the Union, which signifies kind of that it's no longer a flag as the strips, but the Union is intact. But it's a good way to not burn and have the chemicals of synthetic flags up there.
Excellent. And so your project, so he was telling me, Dirk was telling me, a normal Eagle Scout project takes about 200 hours. So Dirk's project, probably because he was dealing with government, right, took how many hours?
It was around 800 hours with the help of all the people around us. If you look at it, the paint, it looks really nice. Everything's hand painted on there, except the one sticker that's on it, but everything else is hand painted, and that really, it took up most of the time.
Excellent. So then your hope is obviously folks in the town of Parker, as they have a flag that needs to be retired, they'll drop it off. What else do they need to do?
That's it. On the front of the box, if you're not fully sure, there is a description of when the flag should be retired and a briefing on how we do retire. But as soon as you drop it in the box, it's onto the troop, and we work through it and retire it respectively.
Awesome. Well, it's a great project. I look forward to coming to your Eagle Scout ceremony too. It'll be good. So congratulations. But before you go, we have one of your alumni from Ponderosa High School that has something for you.
I already dropped it in.
Oh, you can help. He put his flag in.
Yep.
So awesome. So thank you and congratulations on that.
Jacob, Avengers assemble.
Being short.
Okay, the short one's got to hide behind.
I'm like, yeah.
2, 3. One more here. 1, 2, 3.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, I was like, squeeze it in more. We're good.
I've known him since he was, didn't even recognize him. Yes.
All right, council, the fun is over, and time to get to work. All right, next up on our agenda is public comments. Public comments is an opportunity for town residents and other interested individuals to speak about items not on the agenda. The comment period is 30 minutes up front, and if we have rollover, we'll get you at the end of tonight's meeting, which should be a short one. With individuals allowed to speak 3 minutes each. You must sign up ahead of time first, and I have no one signed up. However, that doesn't preclude you. If anybody would like to make a public comment tonight, please feel free to come forward, state your name and address for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes. Seeing none. All right, we will move on then to reports, items, and comments from the mayor and council. I'm going to start to my right. Councilman Rivero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take you back to the 4th. The council was in full at the Town Terra groundbreaking, which was a groundbreaking for a neighborhood, but more importantly for a much-needed bypass to Parker Road. Chambers Road is part of that, and the developer is going way above his requirements to give the citizens another alternative route to get north-south in the town of Parker. So council was there proudly to throw some dirt around in the air and get some pictures taken, but a much needed and incredible partnership. And then after that, council again showed up at a fentanyl discussion that was put on by the Douglas County Youth Initiative. Incredible discussion, something that we hope to get out in more into the public to educate ourselves to what is simply a epidemic. So we will try to get some words out here in our community, maybe an open house or something in the future where we can educate more people on what's going on in our community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Councilmember Barrington.
So, yep, I did the same things that Councilmember Rivero discussed, and then also on April 12th, I had the pleasure of touring Wellspring Communities in Castle Rock. I got to tour the new La Quinta that has been purchased by Douglas County to be turned into an apartment complex that will house over 30 intellectually and developmentally disabled. So they'll have a safe place to live.
That's all.
And that is all. Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended a Parker Senior Center board meeting recently. Also at O'Brien Park, Daza Parker had an Easter egg hunt, which I believe you were attending. And also I volunteered with my son at the Parker Task Force last weekend for a food drive. Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak.
Thank you very much. On the 5th, Dr. Cog had a special Board of Directors meeting to discuss specifically SB 23-213. Council will be bringing this forward as well. Dr. Cog voted to oppose that bill. On the 11th of April, the council and mayor had an HOA summit, attended an HOA summit. It was great to connect with our HOA board member, community board members, and staff provided some presentation, and we had a fairly robust question and answer at that point in time. Also on the 13th, I attended an E470 Board of Directors meeting, just some crash analysis data. Wrong way drivers, I guess getting on the tollway is up a little bit from 16 up from 14. And we approved a couple of construction projects. The roadway widening from I-70 to 104th, that's going up north. Adams County has some fairly significant growth still, as well as a Sable Road interchange design. So hoping that those endeavors can help create some capacity improvements and some safety improvements for our friends to the north. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes.
So all of what my fellow council members have said. And also on April 5th, I was able to attend the new Buffalo Wild Wings Go ribbon cutting here in Parker, and I'm super excited about that, and pretty sure my little guy and my husband will eat there every night. And then I got to be interviewed from 2 different Chaparral students in the AP government. I know there's a lot of you here, but I also did the private interviews with them, and that was just fantastic because I was the first graduating class at Chaparral. So you guys have a special place in my heart for that, but it was really just great to see how many young people are actually genuinely curious about local government and what it takes, and it was just fun to be able to be interviewed by them.
And I think, so all you Chaparral students tonight, Councilmember Wilkes' students who came with her to Buffalo Wild Wings also took a dozen Wild Wings home with them, too. So y'all missed out. That was probably the best.
Yeah, they were very happy to shadow that.
Very happy, very happy. Yes. Councilmember Hefta.
Yeah, it's been a really busy couple of weeks. So, again, as council members have stated, we went to the Tantera groundbreaking, we went to the Opioid Lunch and Learn, we went to the HOA Summit. I also did an interview with a student at Ponderosa High School, and for a couple of hours, which was great. And I also had a great coffee with Rebecca Bresnan of Valley Hope Center. She's one of the outreach coordinators for Valley Hope, which is a treatment and addiction center here in Parker since 1987. And she's trying to do more community outreach. So we had a great 2.5-hour meeting. And then I also attended the Douglas County Executive Homeless Committee meeting, in which the RTD Transit gave an excellent update with their police force on some of the issues affecting all of us as we take the train downtown. I also posted some of those matters to my own Facebook page, Laura Hefta for Parker Town Council, on the RTD and the opioid crisis as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And just a note from me, today I had the opportunity to go watch the House of Representatives today from the floor in Denver. And I just want to say to all the residents of Parker, you should be very proud of these 6 men and women that sit up here and conduct themselves in a civil manner, in a kind manner, that have everything Parker on their mind all the time. And for you 6, you should be proud of yourself. I think if they could have brought out the blue mats tonight and the milk and put them all down for a nap, that would have been good. So it's everything it lived up to be. So anyway, so thank you all very much for the way we do business around here in Parker. Next up is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of the consent agenda items unless council votes to remove an item for an individual discussion. Ordinances on the consent agenda are for an introduction only and will not be removed for discussion. So council, you have items 5A through 5E for your review.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5E, please.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Rivero, second by Hendricks. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is our public hearings. The first one is the Coyle Perkins property annexation and zoning. This has been continued from November 7th, 2022 and February 21st, 2023. There is a motion to continue this to a date certain of June 5th, 2023. So council, I will, Madam Attorney, do we need to have a motion on the ordinance as well? Or do they follow together?
The motion is for the ordinance, but if you could read the title of the ordinance or I can read it for you if you'd like.
I'll go ahead and do that. And this will be regarding ordinance number 2.281 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance approving and accomplishing the annexation of the contiguous unincorporated territory known as the Coyle Perkins property in Douglas County. So council, again, I'm looking for a motion to extend this to a date certain of June 5th, 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I move to continue ordinance number 2.281 to a date certain of June 5th, 2023, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivero, seconded by Dyak. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0.
First of our two ordinances tonight is ordinance number 9.334.2 on second reading. A bill for an ordinance approving the Second Amendment to agreement regarding design and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Cherry Creek at Dransfell Road, agreement number 21-05.04B, project number 108515, by and between the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District, doing business as Mile High Flood District, the Town of Parker, and Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority. Mr. Grabchuk, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a mouthful, and thank you, council members. This ordinance is for the approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement, also called an IGA, for the funding and construction of the Cherry Creek at Dransfell Stream Stabilization Project. This project is covered in detail in our recent council study session, but I'll go ahead and run through the main project and IGA amendment items as a quick refresher as well. This project is located along Cherry Creek, adjacent to the Salisbury Park and Flat Acres Farm properties. The limits are bounded upstream by the KOA Tower property and downstream by the Piesco power lines. A permanent drainage easement and temporary construction easement have been recently dedicated, which cover all improvements on the Flat Acres Farm property. This project is being funded in partnership with the Mile High Flood District and the Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority. The existing project area can be separated into two distinct sections, also called reaches. The lower reach, being primarily downstream of the future bridge, is experiencing down-cutting and disconnection of the creek's base flows from the riparian corridor, resulting in the drying out of otherwise dense vegetation. This area is also to be stabilized using boulder cascades and a reduced construction footprint to protect the existing vegetation in place. The upper reach, being primarily upstream of the future bridge, has already disconnected from the riparian corridor and includes many unstable bare areas. This reach is to be stabilized using rock riffle structures and reshaping of the active channel and portions of the floodplain bench, as well as plantings and soil amendments. In addition to the long-term stabilization of Cherry Creek throughout the reach, this project sets the table, so to speak, for the future Dransfeld extension and bridge between 20 Mile and Motsenbacher. This area of channel and floodplain realignment, as well as structure locations, have been designed to hydraulically support the proposed bridge design. Due to the necessary openings of the floodplain to support the bridge, a little more than a quarter mile of regional trail and sanitary sewer is proposed to be relocated. The existing concrete rubble spur dike located in this area will also be removed for the benefit of both stream stabilization and future bridge connection. Finally, the confluence of Cherry Creek and the KOA tributary is to be formalized with rock structures and a culvert crossing of the Cherry Creek Regional Trail. This project is currently under the final steps of federal permitting, with construction hopefully anticipated to begin at the end of May. We anticipate approximately 9 months of heavy construction, with revegetation efforts continuing for several years following the project. Shown on this slide is a breakdown of the project contributions proposed with this IGA amendment, with the town contributing $2.5 million with this amendment and outside partners contributing another $1.5 million. To summarize, this IGA amendment will leverage outside funds to supplement the town's funds for construction of this project. Additionally, this commits the Mile High Flood District to the administration and construction of the contract. Thank you. And any questions?
Great. We'll go to staff questions. I'll start to my right. Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Rivero?
Thank you. If left unimproved, what is the drawbacks to letting something down cut as far as the volumes and everything that we will see if we don't get in front of it?
Yeah, there's lots of drawbacks to the down cutting. One of the main drawbacks is the lowering of the water table. It's going to continue to kind of lower below the roots of the vegetation. That vegetation will kind of slowly die off. It's the real bare soil areas that are prone to erosion, creek or otherwise, and so as soon as the vegetation's gone, the erosion starts happening really quickly.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes?
So this is what you guys have already done down over at McCobb Park off of Parker Road, correct?
Yes, it's a very similar type project. Mhm.
And you've seen a lot of improvement since, what was that, 2 years ago that you guys did that?
Yeah, I think just the way the surface flows have kind of returned and widened out a bit, and the vegetation is holding really well. I think it was a very successful project.
Perfect, thank you.
And Councilmember Hefta.
And yes, you said this was going to start in May of 2023?
Yes, if this IGA amendment were to pass, then that's the anticipated start date, the end of May.
And when do you think that might conclude?
So we're thinking up to 9 months of heavy construction. It's unlikely it'll take the full 9 months. Our crews have been kind of, in the past, pretty quick about this, but that would push end of construction into kind of the new year, essentially. But yeah.
And then in your memo, it says this is largely undeveloped except for a small single-family house and several accessory structures that are remnants of previous agricultural uses. Does that impact this in any way?
This is referring to the Flat Acres Farm property, which does have a residential house on it, and then 2 work sheds. The floodplain on this property is amended with the Clomer. It removes a good portion of the property, I'd say a big chunk of it, from the floodplain. The structures, as they currently sit, are not in the regulatory floodplain, but they will become in the regulatory floodplain when the model is updated. Essentially, just the natural change of the creek and earth in general has pushed those properties, which were barely somehow not mapped into it. This would happen regardless of the project, and it's not an effect of the project.
Thank you.
Great. All right, at this time, I'm going to open it up for public comment at 7:26. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on ordinance number 9.334.2 on second reading? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:26, and council bring it back for any final comments or debate. Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. I think this is near and dear to my heart. I find stormwater incredibly important. We look at roads, we look at public safety, but, flood risk and the damage caused by what water wants to do, water's going to do what it wants to do. Water remembers, as we say, and it will do what it wants to do. And we can guide it to the best of our abilities. There are situations in our region that they have neglected it. And one we look back to is Piney Creek up in Aurora. And it was a nightmare, and it unfolded incredibly fast. They saw it, they identified it, tried to get in front of it, and too late. Almost lost houses, flooded houses. The erosion that can happen with an event, and even a 5-year event, any kind of event that causes a significant flow can get away from us pretty quickly. I have the honor of sitting on one of the complementary boards to this project and the Cherry Creek Water and the investments there. Anytime we can use outside dollars to improve our reaches within our community, we got to take advantage of those. And this is budgeted, and I am well in favor of continuing these improvements along all the reaches in the Cherry Creek within our town boundaries. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
I just lost my connection, but I think I'm okay. No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks.
No comments, thank you.
Councilmember Dyak.
Always appreciate it when we have external funding partners. Always great when people give us money to improve Parker.
Councilmember Wilkes.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Hefta.
Just that this annexation is consistent with the town's land use policy in the...
No annexation. It's not an annexation. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. Sorry. Thought I was reading from the memo here. It's okay. Thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 9.334.2.
I move to approve ordinance number 9.334.2 on second reading.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Wilkes, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera.
Aye.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Dyak.
Yes.
Wilkes.
Aye.
Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is ordinance number 13.110 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance accepting a petition for the organization of a general improvement district in the town of Parker, Colorado, to be known as the Town of Parker My Main Street General Improvement District, declaring the necessity of the formation of the district, establishing and creating the district, and providing other details relating thereto. Madam Town Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. The purpose of this agenda item is for Town Council to consider the approval of an ordinance that is necessary for the organization of a general improvement district. On November 7th, 2022, the Town Council approved a development and financing agreement between PAR, the town, and CD Parker LLC, who is the developer of the My Main Street parcels. One of the public investment tools contained in the development agreement is the formation of a general improvement district. Under the terms of the development agreement, the developer must submit a petition by March 1, 2023, and the town must approve the organization of the GID by June 19, 2023, or the developer may terminate the development agreement. There are 2 steps to form the general improvement district. The first step is for Confluence as the property owner to submit a petition requesting that the town council organize the district. They did submit a petition on March 1st. The second step is the town council adopts this ordinance organizing the district, and this is the ordinance you're considering this evening. By approving the ordinance, town council will accept the petition, waive requirements for notice, publication, hearing, election, and organization bond. The town council is authorized to take this action when the property owner owns 100% of the property to be included within the boundaries of the district. Here, Confluence owns 100% of the East Main parcel surface estate, which is the property that they have petitioned to have included within the district. Declare the district as organized and name the district the Town of Parker My Main Street General Improvement District, and establish the boundaries of the district, which will be limited to the surface estate of that East Main parcel. The other My Main Street parcels will be added to the district when they are ready for development. Once the district is formed, Town Council will serve as the board of directors of the district. The mayor will be the presiding officer, the town clerk will be the secretary, and the finance director will be the treasurer. The meetings of the district will be conducted in much the same manner as you meet for the Parker Authority for Reinvestment. The purpose of the district is to generate property taxes for the project to pay or reimburse the developer for eligible improvements, which includes such things as utility infrastructure, life safety improvements, accessibility improvements, beautification, roadway construction, sidewalks, landscaping and lighting, public plazas, public art, and other similar public improvements. In order to impose the property tax, the board will pass a resolution to hold an election on November 7th. The only qualified elector to vote at this election will be Confluence as the property owner. The board meeting to consider this resolution will be scheduled sometime between May 8th and June 5th. If the property tax passes, it will be assessed against the East Main parcel only. When the other parcels are ready for development, Confluence will submit a new petition to the town for conclusion. The property tax approved at the November 7 election will be levied against each of the remaining parcels as they are included into the district without the need for holding any additional elections. Please note that the property tax is only levied against the parcels included in the district. No other property in the town will be affected. And that concludes my presentation.
Great. I'm going to start with questions to my left. Councilmember Hefta.
Here, Madam Town Attorney, who submitted the petition to organize the GED?
CD Parker LLC.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wilks.
No questions.
Councilmember Dyak.
No questions. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Hendricks.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
I did have some questions, but we got kicked off.
Yeah, I apologize. I got kicked off the packet, sent it in.
Yeah.
Kicked off on my phone too, so give me just a second.
Right.
If I can pull up another route. Apologies, everybody. Apologies, everybody.
Councilmember Hefta, I want to clarify, it was actually Confluence Companies that submitted the petition. They're the property owner.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a packet. Apologies, everybody.
Okay.
Actually, Councilmember Hefta, it was CD Parker LLC. I was correct the first time.
That's okay. That's okay.
Third time's the charm.
This is what happens when we have a pause. You can
Yeah, I
change
know.
your-
I could keep changing my mind on you.
One of the two, right?
All right. Councilmember Rivera, are you ready or are you
I
still?
have no questions. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll skip my questions
Okay,
for now.
all right. Seeing that, we will open this up for public comment at 7:35. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on ordinance number 13.110 on second reading? Seeing none, we'll close public comment at 7:35 and come back to the council in the same manner for any comment or debate. Councilmember Hefta?
The developer is asking for this GED from the town council, and the petition was signed by the developer as the 100% owner of the taxable surface estate that consists of the East Main parcel. And the 5 other Main Street parcels may be added to the GED in the future when those parcels are ready for development. They're asking us to accept this petition and take all necessary steps and procedures required by law for the organization of the Town of Parker My Main Street General Improvement District. And they're also asking us to waive all state law requirements for notice, publication, hearing, and election, as well as the bond associated with the organization of the GED. They're asking for this as a necessary part of the development of downtown Main Street.
Councilmember Wilks?
No comments, thank you.
Great. Councilmember Dyak?
Yeah, I think big picture is they're asking us to help us tax themselves. So, supportive.
It's a rarity that they ask, yes. Councilmember Hendricks?
No comments.
Councilmember Barrington?
No comment, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera?
No, I appreciate Councilman Hefta's comments, and I think that Councilman Dyak summed it up very well. They're asking us to let them tax themselves, and this council is always in favor of growth, paying for growth. So I'm in support.
Great. With that, I will entertain a motion on ordinance number 13.110.
I move to approve ordinance number 13.110 on second reading.
Second?
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Hefta. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is contracts over $500,000. First up, and we'll certainly let Councilmember Hendricks talk to this first, but Harvey Open Space construction contract. It's finally happening, huh? All right.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Collins,
Mayor and
you're up with the
council
good
members.
news.
Yes, I
All
am.
right.
I'm very excited. We've got tonight before you the Harvey Open Space construction contract. And just for a little bit of a reminder, Harvey Open Space is 71.4 acres that's located at Canterbury Parkway and Main Street. That property was acquired from the Harvey family in 2016 through Douglas County, and then we kind of finished the process up in 2017. I'll go to my next slide here. We did a community input and master plan process, which was completed in 2017, shortly after the property was finished. And then that property is under a conservation easement, which restricts the uses to that property. That was originally done in 1996, and the town has taken over the conservation easement. Some of those uses include soft surface trails, picnic shelters, fencing, soft surface parking lot, restroom, and signage. And We're also doing roadway access improvements right now, which is under construction. If you've been by that intersection recently, you've probably had maybe a little bit of trouble getting through there. We've had one of the lanes blocked off some of the time to complete that project. We hope that'll be done in May, pending weather. Through the town process, we were able to get the site plan recommended by the Planning Commission to Town Council on February 23rd, and then the Town Council approved a site plan on March 6th of this year. So we're at the bidding phase now. We put the project out publicly for bid on March 23rd. We received 7 bids ranging from $1,521,600 to $2,867,741. So it was a very wide range of bids. We got a very good competitive bid. The lowest conforming bid was Richdale Construction for that $1,521,600. They recently completed the O'Brien Park Playground project, so I think that helped them realize working with the town was a good thing, and we got a very competitive bid from them, and they've done a really good job on O'Brien. Hopefully that project will have one last little thing if we can get the weather to complete to finish that one up. The construction schedule, we're hopefully getting the construction contract awarded tonight if the council approves it. And then we'll have construction from May of this year through October of this year. And that'll be dependent on weather. We should be finished by then. It should be adequate time to complete the project. So staff's recommending approval of a construction contract with Richdale Construction in the amount of $1,521,600. Also, would like to see a 10% project contingency in the amount of $152,160 in order to cover any unforeseen costs that may come up during the construction process. So the total cost would be $1,673,760. We do have funds available in the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space funds that were approved through the budget process in 2023. If you have any questions at this time, I'd take them.
Great. We'll start to my left. Council Member Diak.
Thank you very much. Brett, was there an engineering estimate or just an estimate of what this would cost?
It was kind of all over the place when we were doing it because of the way prices were going up and down. So we had an engineer's estimate from 1.8 to about 2.2 was our range. So we got a really good competitive bid.
That's great. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes.
So part of this is to put in the trails that are going to go through there to allow people to enjoy this. And it's also just making it safe and having the parking structure and a little bit of lighting at the parking area, correct?
Yeah, so there's a 20-car parking lot that will be put in with it has to be soft surface, can't be paved. We are paving a portion of the parking lot for ADA access. And then there's a restroom, vault restroom, and then there's a 1.5-mile loop trail, pressure fine trail around the park. There's 3 shelters, and then there's a bridge and a drinking fountain, and then various signage to interpret the site.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Brett, you mentioned Councilmember Hefta's favorite thing, shelters. So Councilmember Hefta, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, this is just such a beautiful thing. And I just wanted to point out how expensive it can be to develop open space and to put in those necessary soft surface trails, picnic shelters, restrooms, parking, with the taxpayers' money here in this particular matter. And so do you foresee any delays due to any type of shortages or anything like this in this project? If the council remembers, I did pre-order the restroom before the project, so we have that coming. So that would be one of the things that could get delayed. And then we already have tried to get into the fabrication shop drawings with the contractor. So I don't foresee that we would be behind. The only thing that could, if it would be those 3 shelters that would be delayed, but we can have the park pretty much built and those can go in last. Thank you for the shade structures. Appreciate that.
Good job, Brett. Good job. Councilmember Hendricks.
No questions. I'll have comment later.
All right. Councilmember Barrington.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that the discrepancy on the bids. At first I thought, was it a typo or did they make a mistake with their bid because they were so different? But I saw that in your notes, you said you checked with them and made sure everything was included in the bid. Like they didn't forget labor or anything like that.
No, I think this is the type of work that they do, and I think it's the right size project for this particular contractor. Some of the other ones are a little larger, so they have a lot more overhead, I think. So it just kind of was the perfect storm with the project. You know, they're moving from one project in town to another project in town, which I think helps them with mobilization. I did check thoroughly with them. We went through the bid item by item to make sure that everything was included.
I'm sure you did. Thank you.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. Is it too late to move this money over to H2 O'Brien Park and fix that? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We already did that. No, I want you, if you could, please, Brett, talk a little bit about why there has to be crusher fine and talk about, Mr. Harvey's wishes and us upholding those wishes, if you could.
Sure, yeah. So there's a conservation easement that was done in 1996 that Ray J. Harvey put on his property. And then what he did was he had a life estate until he passed away on the property, which was in 2008. So he was able to live on that property from 1996 to 2008. But one of the caveats when he granted the land to Douglas County originally, the Douglas County Land Conservancy, was that this conservation easement had to preserve the property. So the property was not to be developed into any active use parks, no soccer fields, no tennis courts, none of those kind of things. And it was limited to just the things that we're actually building now, which I had gone over previously. So that restricts that land from now and forever. Like I mentioned before, the town took over that conservation easement. And so we have to abide by those rules as well throughout so we can't go down the road, we can't go and change this, and another council can't change this. It has to remain conserved in the manner that we build it now.
Thank you.
All right, council, with that, I'm going to open this up for public comment at 7:46. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on the Harvey's open space construction contract? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:46 and bring it back for final comments from the council. Councilmember Hendricks, I will start with you as the champion of the Harvey open space.
Wow, I wouldn't say that, but I remember this was announced years ago, the transfer from Douglas County to Town of Parker, and here we are today. I think for a town, we have abundance of parks and open space, and now we're getting 70 acres more for the citizens to enjoy. And I know another project, Salisbury Park North, that'll be another 90 acres, hopefully. And for all the grief we get from development, whatnot, this is a monumentous day. We're approving, hopefully, open space. So this is great.
Councilmember Barrington.
I'm really excited for this project too. Thank you, everyone, for all of your hard work.
Councilman Rivera.
Yeah, this is a huge gift. I want to recognize that this is a gift. Thankfully, Mr. Harvey back in the day and then the Harvey estate recognized the asset that this could be in perpetuity forever to the citizens of Parker and to the citizens of Douglas County. Originally granting it to the Douglas County Land Conservancy, and then it being granted to the town of Parker and the citizens of the town of Parker is worth recognition. This space is amazing. I've had the opportunity to hike the space with Brian O'Malley from COSAC and found just walking spotted artifacts, and it's going to be a huge asset to our already abundant parks and open space. So again, forever to be named the Harvey Open Space, and I thank Mr. Harvey dearly.
Councilmember Dack.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Rivera kind of stole some of my thunder. I mean, I was able to many times walk this with Brian O'Malley, our COSAC representative. In walking it, finding different things, Brian having a quick response or a quick answer, and just taking a pause and looking at the scenery from different points in this on this property is just amazing. So what a gift, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilks.
Thanks for all your work.
And Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you so much. Anytime we get a chance to bring a project like this to the residents of Parker, and with you at the helm leading the way, we appreciate it. We appreciate the Parks and Recreation Division. Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on the Harvey Open Space construction contract.
I move to approve the staff recommendations as part of the regular agenda.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Hefta, seconded by Hendricks. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. From open space to traffic lights. Next up with Mr. Hudson, Parker Responsive Traffic Signal System Improvements. Capital Improvement 21-022.
It would help if I turn the speaker on. So, background, Town Council approved ordinance 9.33 in 2021. This is for the Parker Traffic Responsive Phase 2 project. This is a continuation of a system we installed on Parker Road in 2019. This project consists of 7 mid-block counting stations and associated pan-tilt zoom cameras. Talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The federal funding for this, through that contract that was signed via ordinance, is $400,000 maximum for this project, an 80-20 split. We issued a notice to bidders in February and opened bids a month later, following all federal guidelines for this project. The city map, there are 7 counting stations at various locations. This map also shows the 4 on Parker Road that have been in use since late 2019. So I'm not going to get into very specific locations, but we'll talk a little bit more about maybe one of them. For example, Hilltop Road out by Legends High School. The idea for this is this system will allow our traffic signals to respond to traffic by counting traffic. So if it happens to be that Legend High School happens to have a delay or a test day where only certain classes are in, the system will respond to that traffic accordingly. There's, again, 6 other locations around the town. I'm not going to go into every specific one. You're asking probably what does the infrastructure look like? On the left is one of the counting stations. This is a 20-foot tall pole. You can actually, this is on Parker Road up near the hospital. You can see the hospital in the background there. It is has a radar count station at the top of it. Basically counts reflections of cars going by it. That's what it does. That information is fed back to our system through a wireless link, a radio link, back to our central signal controller, which responds to those traffic accordingly what the information is coming in. The other thing is a pan-tilt zoom camera. This is the small white globe-looking thing in the top of this traffic signal here. You probably ask yourself, why do we need pan-tilt zoom cameras? Well, occasionally we get really erroneous data from these radar counts, either 0 or lots. This allows us to have situational awareness of what the traffic's actually doing. So each one of these count stations has a pan-tilt zoom camera nearby the traffic signal so we can see if really the information we're getting is reality. Maybe we'll go.
Try now, Chris.
All right, we received bids from 2 contractors on this. Interface Communications was lowest responsible bidder. They've completed multiple traffic signals as a subcontractor to us. Last year, they were awarded 3 traffic signals at the end of the year. One of them should be flashing this week. That's the Crowfoot Valley one. That's under construction at Crowfoot, Chambers, and Bayou Gulch. The other two under construction right now. They've started work at both locations. They're very familiar with federal contract requirements. There's an unbelievable amount of paperwork that comes with these contracts. They do multiple federal aid projects. And with that, staff recommends award this contract to Interface Communications. Any questions you might have?
So we'll go with questions to my far left. Councilmember Hefta.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes.
No questions.
Councilmember Dyak.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks.
No questions, thanks.
Councilmember Barrington.
No questions, thanks.
And Councilmember Rivera.
Can you talk about the 4 stations we have used and implemented on Parker Road? Successes, benefits?
Yeah, so we have 4 count stations on Parker Road. They show up, the furthest north one is near the hospital, the furthest south is near Hilltop Road, I believe. Just south of Hilltop Road, that's correct. When the pandemic hit and traffic went to basically zero, and I hope the pandemic never comes back, but this system automatically adjusted to it. And as traffic came back, our old traffic patterns didn't come back like they did before. They're still morphing and settling into place. For example, we used to have more of an AM peak than we do today. The traffic's back, trust me on that. But the shape of the traffic when you graph it has morphed, and I think it's going to continue to morph. And that's what this system does. It allows us to respond to those traffic. So we were very lucky when the pandemic hit. The system, well, it was crazy the amount of reduction in traffic when the pandemic first hit at the end of March of 2020. But the system automatically adjusted to those increases. Now, does it take oversight? Yes. It's not perfect, but it responds to the traffic and adjusts as need be. So if we have another pandemic, we can adjust. These count stations are located so that we think we can respond to different things in the community. We tried to locate them where they made the most sense.
Thank you. Second question and last question. So Interface obviously contracted to do 3 light traffic signals. We're having an issue with my least favorite word, supply chain issues, getting those posts and those masts and whatnot. Do you see a delay here for this equipment?
I hope not. Interface has actually sent me all the submittals. Had this been a town project, we would have had those approved and done, but my hands are tied with this being a federal contract till this contract's fully awarded and executed. We are being told the lead time right now is 5 months on the equipment. That's the reality of the world we live in. Some equipment is running over 60 months. Luckily, we don't have any of that equipment on this project. I tried with my friends from the state to allow us to provide this order and provide this material to compress the lead time. Sometimes dealing with the state, it's a very inflexible object. So
it's a great segue.
My hope is we award this tonight. We get right on submittals as soon as possible. There's going to be 5 months of us waiting for the equipment to get here, and I think it will be in operation by the end of the year.
Outstanding. Great. Thank you, sir.
All right, with that, I'm going to open up for public comment on the Parker responsive traffic signal at 7:58. Anyone from the public wishing to make comment on this? Seeing none, we'll close it and bring it back in the same order for any comments or final debate. Councilman Rivero?
We've seen how well this works, and I think it's important to, everything, the Parker Road is the spine of our system. And, the spine now has shown that it can work, and now we need to get the ribs that lead to it in tune, and this is a great first step. And I think that the other part of this that's important is that even if we go to more adaptive and smart, even AI technology, these tools that we're acquiring now can be used in that jump. And so this is, it's not wasted dollars. It's not going to be outdated. It's simply a first step to getting even a smarter system. So I am behind this 100%.
Councilmember Barrington.
Yes, I am behind this 100% as well. One of the biggest complaints that we all hear is the traffic. And so I think anytime we can be proactive and just try and find another solution, everyone is going to appreciate that.
Councilmember Hendricks.
I'm in support. Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak.
Yeah, this is another one of those partnership projects, getting money from external partners to come and help make Parker better. And I apologize for that, Chris, a little bit for the challenges that you had to incur. But again, this is one of those things where we always like to see additional lanes or lane expansions. Through our study sessions, we were educated on that operational improvements or efficiencies in traffic signal optimization greatly helps us. So it's also adding lanes in addition to creating these efficiencies, I think will help the congestion throughout Parker. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes.
Yeah, this is fantastic because, like Councilmember Barrington said, that is our biggest complaint is traffic. And what people don't realize is Parker Road isn't just a Parker road. It connects to Castle Rock and Elizabeth and all of our surrounding cities that are growing at an exponential rate as well. And when people try to avoid the highway, they hop onto Parker Road. So you guys addressing the traffic that we're dealing with just in our area, I think is just going to make the residents a lot happier. And I like the system.
And Councilmember Hefta.
Yes. Yes, when you first sit on town council, I think that the most perplexing thing is traffic. You learn a lot about traffic and the signals and our equipment and how important it is to have adequate timing and cameras throughout the town of Parker. So with the expansion of this traffic signal timing throughout the majority of the town of Parker, this is really going to improve the system going forward. And kudos to the Public Works and Engineering Department for their hard work, their traffic department, and you, especially Chris, on this matter and working so well. Thank you.
With that, Council, I'll entertain a motion on the Parker Responsive Traffic Signal System Improvement CIP 21-022.
I move to approve the staff recommendation as a part of the regular agenda.
Second.
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Wilkes. Rivero?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up under resolution is resolution number 23-040, a resolution opposing the statewide land use and zoning preemptions in Senate Bill 23-213. Kelsey, you're going to walk us through a little bit of background on this?
There it is, I think. There we go. All right, thank you so much for having me this evening, Mayor and Council. So as we met in study session last week, we had a brief overview of this Senate Bill 23-213, which is the land use bill. It's intended to tackle the affordability crisis in Colorado by encouraging the development of higher density housing, among other things. At this time, there were several concerns that were raised, some of which were the usurpation of home rule authority, which has traditionally, land use has always been a local issue in Colorado, not so much at the statewide realm. The bill has quite a bit of confusing language. It's a bit of a one-size-fits-all approach. Counties were not subject to the bill's requirements, and there's no guarantee that the provisions of the bill would result in affordable housing. I will say, since I met with you last Monday, there were some amendments that were added to the bill. I will say the bill largely remains intact. It still largely requires zoning codes that allow denser uses as a use by right, and still requires quite a bit of reporting and plan making. But it does do a few things, like instead of saying no, parking can be required for these denser uses, it allows you to require at least a half a space per unit. It does clarify some language around accessory dwelling units. It seems like key corridors are now tied to a transportation concept instead of it just being tied to a commercial concept. So a few things there, but like I said, the bill is largely still intact as we discussed last week. So getting to CML's opposition, CML had a town hall earlier last month where they expressed their opposition to the bill. This has also been echoed by many of our neighbor municipalities up and down the Front Range and across the state. And CML is asking all of its members to voice their opposition through a resolution opposing the bill, as well as mailing their legislature and other actions like that. So tonight I have the resolution for your consideration to oppose Senate Bill 23-213.
All right, Council. I know you're going to have a lot of comments on this one, so let's just do if there's any questions in general, and then we'll save plenty of time for comments. I'll start to my right, Councilmember Rivero.
I have no questions.
Councilmember Barrington.
I'll save my questions for comment time.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Time for comment time.
No questions.
Councilmember Dyak.
No questions.
Councilmember Wilkes.
No questions.
And Councilmember Hefta.
One question. Did you come across of any other legislation throughout the U.S. that might be similar to this proposed legislation that you're aware of?
The one in New York State would be pretty similar. That's the only one I've been following somewhat closely. I do believe that California also has passed a new regulation where some of these denser uses are used by right, but it's been pretty recent, so I could not tell you what the effects of those are. And New York is still pending.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great. I'm going to open it up for public comment at 8:05 on resolution number 23-040. See no public comment. We're going to go back in the same order for council comments prior to the vote. Turn the floor over to Councilmember Rivero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Council, I ask for your pardon, but I might ramble here for a little while. Politics is an interesting game. You know, elected at any level, you get to sell. You get to say things that sound great. And what sounds great today is housing for everybody, or more housing, or you know, how do we fix the housing solution? And what happened many years ago is something called construction defects issue. The reason that we don't have an abundance of condominiums in our community, and we do have an abundance of apartments, is because the state, through its infinite wisdom, made it more difficult and more expensive to build and then insure condominiums. So nobody built them. They messed with the market, and the market responded. And so then they built apartments. But what happens is when you look at housing, you have what I look at as a Trivial Pursuit piece. And in order to win Trivial Pursuit, you have to get all 6 pieces. Well, we don't have the condominium piece in Colorado. So what happens is people stay in the rental market too long. What does that do? Well, that increases the rent. It makes it unaffordable. Or they enter the housing market too soon, and then they're cash poor, or they're house poor. That was through state laws that passed construction defects, and the market responded, and we are lacking condominiums. And so now, as our lawyers put it, Kelsey specifically, the state wants to deregulate through regulation, which is exactly what they think they can do. We have what's called decentralization in the United States. The 10th Amendment of the Constitution states, the power is not regulated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved for the states respectively, or to the people. Our state constitution, who obviously wanted to emulate the federal constitution, states in Article 20, Section 6, the people of each city or town of this state having a population of 2,000 inhabitants as determined by the last preceding census taken under the authority of the United States, the state of Colorado or the city or town are hereby vested with and shall always have the power to make, amend, add to or replace the charter of said city or town, which shall be organic law to extend to all its local and municipal matters. Furthermore, such charter and ordinances made pursuant thereto in such matters shall supersede within the territorial limits and other jurisdictions of said city and town any state law in conflict therewith. So federal understand decentralization. The state itself understands decentralization. So we have a republic within a republic. And to go against that in the state of Colorado, in the West, is fascinating to me. But it doesn't end there, because below that, we have HOAs. Our neighborhoods are governed by HOAs, and HOAs are local elected bodies that manage contracts between individuals. The state can't supersede that. That's a contract between two or more individuals, yet the state, this law, 213, would supersede that and change the very nature of the HOAs, specifically strong voluntary covenants that run within the land. The land was purchased with the belief and understanding that those covenants will persist as long as they own that land. It is a real property right of individual families. Senate Bill 23-213 takes away any element of ownership, changing the use and value of the land, like eminent domain, but without the court process that requires and follows specific local justification and compensation. This leaves the owner of said property without due process of law. It is a crazy dark road, I believe, that the state is thinking about going down. Local control. The best government governs closest to the people, and whether that's an HOA or a municipal or a state at state regulations, it's up to the people to decide who governs them. And the people have 100 representatives in the state capitol, and those representatives vote on state law. But each town has, on average, probably 6 or 7 representatives. Now you multiply that by the 270 odd towns in this community, that's a lot of people representing their individuals, a lot of ideas, a lot of specific beliefs on their communities, and not a centralized Denver belief. This bill was sponsored by a gentleman from Commerce City, Denver, and Arapahoe County. Those are great ideas for maybe their communities, but leave it in your community. Don't put it out to all of us. Let's see, going on here, I apologize. The kicker, and this is the biggest thing, it was mentioned earlier, that Senate Bill 213 does not apply to counties. It does not apply to neighborhoods of single-family houses that reside wholly in a county. Think Highlands Ranch. They wouldn't be obligated by this bill. But if you think about in our own region, the Pinery, nope, it wouldn't be obligated. Pradera, nope, they'd be exempt too. Clark Farms, sorry, you'd have to listen to what the state has to say. Stonegate, nope, sorry, you reside in the county, you can do whatever you want. And Robinson Ranch, nope, no say whatsoever. But Butterfield, right next door, you can do it. You can keep doing what you like to do because you reside in the county. So then, to me, that is a matter that what the governor tried to do by his event that he had on the Capitol steps with balloons and all was establish a matter of statewide control. Yet by not applying to said counties, it is not a statewide issue. So how can you apply to the whole state if you don't apply to the whole state? The basis of their argument is invalidated by their own omission and exclusion of unincorporated single-family neighborhoods. Lastly, I'd like to quote somebody here because I think this surmises everything that we are, as municipalities, looking at. Over 85 years of Supreme Court jurisprudence support local government's ability and responsibility to enact zoning codes and land use ordinances that fit the needs of their communities. A local government is elected to represent its community members and is ultimately responsible for preserving the character of the community. Local governments are best suited to meet the unique land use needs of their community through transparent public processes, like tonight. Local planning involves widespread citizen input and broader stakeholder involvement. When addressing contentious issues, local governments have more opportunities for public participation than state and federal governments. As such, land use tools allow local governments to act consistently with their constituents' expectations. And I quote, Congressman Jared Polis, 2015. So what changed? Other than the power of the ink in his pen, what changed between Congressman Polis and Governor Polis to say that no longer do the municipalities get to govern themselves? The only thing I can think of is a famous old tale written by Hans Christian Andersen, The Emperor Has New Clothes. You know the story, and this is what we're looking at today.
Councilmember Barrington.
You're a hard act to follow, Mr. Rivera, Councilmember. I just thought it was important to let everyone know how we, as a council, all oppose this. And so I wanted to read the letter that we, as a council, sent to Senator Smallwood and Representative Hartsook. So, dear honorable legislators, the Parker Town Council unanimously requests your support in opposing Senate Bill 23-213. It takes all cities, towns, counties, and the state to work together to address housing affordability. Senate Bill 23-213 puts a singular state agency in charge and includes zero proof that what's being proposed will in fact create more affordable housing options. It does, however, strip away local control regarding land use, and that's causing a chilling effect across Colorado. We, the elected leaders at the local level of government, know the nuances and unique makeup of our communities best. We are the elected body that represents the voice of Parker residents. SB 23-213 silences their vote. The battle cry at the state capitol is to build more housing now. In Parker, that's what we've been doing for some time. In fact, 1/3 of all new housing units, approximately 1326, were new multifamily units from 2018 to 2023. While we are increasing our diversified housing portfolio, we currently have local control to ensure parking requirements meet the needs of future residents that will call these new developments home. This bill eliminates the very important element that will result in parking nightmares throughout our neighborhoods. In Parker, we are achieving a balance of housing options through sound local planning and zoning policies. These local policies ensure housing choices for all while respecting property owners' rights. These local policies are mindful of future demand for water and support safe access to roads, trails, and parks. This bill is simply a deregulation at the local level, allowing the state to regulate through broad brush legislation. A one-size-fits-all approach to this issue creates more problems, offers no solutions, and sets the stage for litigated decision-making in the future. Many Parker residents chose to live in this community in order to reside in a suburban area with less density. This bill would impact the character of our neighborhoods by forcing incompatible, high-density land uses adjacent to single-family homes. Individuals should have the security of knowing that the overall character of their community will remain stable given the significant investment involved in purchasing a home. This bill inappropriately removes decision-making from the people who would be affected by this legislation and shifts it to the state, who has no vested interest in our community or our families. Another concern is that while municipalities will be impacted by this bill, the mandates will not apply to the vast majority of Colorado counties. For communities that border non-home rule county lines, this bill creates the potential of creating non-cohesive border developments that would result in negative traffic and safety impacts. We recognize the importance of engaging with our municipal neighbors and partner agencies on a variety of issues such as attainable housing, regional transportation, and water conservation. Our request is that you vote no on SB 23-213 and allow us to continue to work collaboratively at all levels of government to identify real solutions that assist in providing housing to all while maintaining our rights as local government to protect the special characteristics of our respective communities. Sincerely, and it's signed by all council and mayor. I thought it was important that you got to hear what we sent. Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks.
I'll just be short and sweet. I oppose the bill and I agree with this resolution. Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak.
Wow. Thank you, Mayor. I sit on a regional board, Dr. Cog, Denver Regional Council of Governments. We had a special board meeting to talk about this on the 5th, so 12 days ago. And about a third of the representation hadn't had a chance to have a study session like Parker did last Monday and bring it forward to a business meeting for consideration on a resolution. But what we have a tendency to do is, at the regional levels, we get together and we try to discuss issues. And the sole purpose of this meeting was to try to figure out this bill. And again, it's a bill at the state level that is being considered in concert with the governor's office, and that there's different levels of government. Obviously, you have county, and you have local. And the Denver Regional Council of Governments, Dr. Cog, is a bunch of local elected officials and county commissioners. And throughout the conversation, much like the conversation we had here in Parker, just things started to come up. Great thoughts, great ideas, great questions that had no answers. So again, very challenging, and I'm not going to try to regurgitate what Councilmember Rivera and I'm sure Councilmember Hefta has some fantastic information for you. But the main premise is we really haven't had the ability to engage in conversation with our state representatives to try to figure out if this approach to affordability of housing is the best approach. Some of the people at Dr. Cog questioned is there any data. People in the past have thought to do something like this, but there has been, to their thought, no facts or evidence that indicate that going down this path will actually provide affordable housing. There's a whole host of different items and issues that came up. Funding. I mean, this is a significant shift that the state is proposing to take the ability to make our community, within our community, out of our hands. And what kind of consequences is that going to do? It would be fantastic to have a transit. They talk about transit lines. We have, I guess, arguably a defective mass transit system here that we cannot rely upon. And if they impose just something on a broad brush, that we can create density along that transit line when the transit line has no ridership and no ability to function. I think after 6 or 7 o'clock at night, it's very challenging to create the environment for people to rely upon what they believe is just an assumption that it's going to be functional. So I think bringing in partners, slowing this down, having a place where the state can get together with the locals to figure out truly what the issue is and how to attack it. I think there's some low-hanging fruit that can happen before you get to a point where the state starts taking away our ability to create and shape a community that our citizens want us to create and shape on their behalf. It's an imperfect way, but we need to preserve that. We need the ability to have those discussions at the local level and make those tough decisions at the local level because our constituents, our local citizens desire that. So my hope is we can move past this and we can find a way, an ability to start the discussions and to try to figure out how to move forward and get on a trajectory to what the state, I think, is envisioning, and quite honestly, to try to understand what the state wants to achieve. I think it's very challenging, and I hope when this bill does not pass, we can turn the page and start some pretty good discussion. Thank you.
Councilmember Wells.
Very well said. Yeah, you guys, I think, get the gist. You can't put a Band-Aid over a bullet hole, and that's essentially what the state's trying to do right now. Instead of fixing the issue they created, they're trying to put a Band-Aid over it. We all got to give our input when that letter was created that we drafted up. And part of my input was just, we have people that have invested their life fortune into their homes and into home ownership, and the bill is actually going to affect their home equity, their lifestyle, and their investment, and they have a right to protect their home. Part of home ownership is the right to quiet enjoyment of the land. People in Parker, and I'm only going to speak in Parker, we've made the decision to live here because it fits our lifestyle, it fits our desires, and to have a state want to come in and disrupt that and basically tell us that we have no control over what's going to go in next to us, it's not okay. And we're all up here because we want to protect Parker. We're up here because you guys elected us to protect Parker, and we're doing our part with this. Just know that we are fighting for what's best for us, and it's not just on a state level. We are fighting for what's best for our town, and we will continue to fight. But if you guys want to, I'm going to encourage you guys to also reach out and voice your concerns about this bill as well. If you go to, I think it's cml.org. Yeah, if you go to cml.org, there's information on this bill and information on how you can get to the decision makers and voice your opinion.
Councilmember Hefta.
On a larger scale, the nature of this proposed legislation would change communities across Colorado, not just Parker. Not just Parker. This would change the nature and character of every community across the state of Colorado. That's how serious this legislation, proposed legislation is. So, if you will bear with me, I'd like to explain a little bit of the facts and the evidence on this. When you pass legislation, your legislation should seek to improve a condition. This legislation does not do that, and I'll explain why right now. The affordable housing problem is a result of deliberate policy choices, chronic underfunding that has persisted for decades and worsened since the Great Recession of 2008 and COVID-19, respectively. Colorado, in general, is 126,000 housing units short. The population went up by 14% from the years 2010 to 2020 in Colorado, while the national average was about 7% increase. The state of Colorado did not keep up with those housing needs during a period of very rapid growth. So rapid growth is the problem. Now, what do we have right now that has contributed to this housing shortage? Well, right now, home builders are unable to fill open positions. They're unable to build at the rate they would like to build or recover from pre-pandemic levels since 2008. And the 2020 pandemic just caused a further setback. For instance, the cost of copper wire is up 156% since 2021. The cost of lumber is up 129%. Construction costs are very high and have consistently increased since 2007, since the financial crisis. So you've got supply chain issues, labor issues, construction issues. This is a national problem, not just a state of Colorado problem. The high demand for homes is pushing first-time home buyers out of the market, and only 28% right now are first-time home buyers. In addition, what else caused the problem in Colorado? Well, since 2008, rental rates have skyrocketed, and especially since 2014, when the recreational dispensary law for marijuana was passed. So the rents have increased tremendously, and they're rising at a much faster rate than Colorado incomes. So that's another problem that we have. And again, this legislation is not seeking to address those things. It's only seeking to constrain the ability of all towns and cities in Colorado to engage in planning for their own land development. That's all it's doing. It's constraining those cities and saying all cities and towns in Colorado have to follow the state rules on their planning, not their own rules. not their own land development ordinance. So what else do we have in Colorado? We have aging in place. Lots of people love Colorado. They're not leaving Colorado. Our seniors, our above 55 population is saying, I love Colorado. I'm going to stay here. I'm not moving. So those folks are not selling their homes and not moving. So that's a demographic issue we have. So with all this, you ask yourself, what are the solutions? Well, the solution is not this legislation, number one. This will not solve anything. This is a huge crisis we have in Colorado for affordable housing and across the country as well. So you'll see other states out there trying to address this issue. What are some ideas or solutions for this affordable housing crisis? Well, here's a few. 1, offer 40-year mortgages. 2, reduce the tariffs on lumber being imported into the U.S. and other issues so the costs go down on supplies. 3, reform the construction defect litigation to create more housing statewide, as Councilman Rivero mentioned at the beginning of our discussion here. Most importantly, a federal government, if you're listening, overhaul the housing and urban development at the federal level and improve the housing choice voucher program. One of the key issues in a lack of affordable housing is that this housing choice voucher program at the federal government level, which is available in all states, needs to be overhauled. It needs to allow folks to get the help they need without a tremendous amount of red tape that is associated with the choice voucher program. And lastly, build more affordable housing near transit lines, trains, and bus stations so folks can actually get to their job and get to work back where they live. So to wrap this up, the affordable housing problem is too big and too complex to be solved by the state legislature. And this bill will not accomplish anything except distressing the residents of the state of Colorado and imposing requirements at the state level on all towns and cities and municipalities that will probably increase crime and increase traffic and a lot of frustration amongst the residents and citizens of Colorado. Thank you.
Councilmember Rivero.
No, I appreciate it. I'm just, if I could, I move to approve Resolution 23-040.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivero, second by Wilkes. Rivero.
Aye.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Dyak.
Yes.
Wilkes.
Aye.
Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes on a 6-0 vote. Just as a point of personal privilege, I just want to congratulate this council. You've continued to live up to your charge. Every time this state, every time the legislature, every time the governor puts some idiotic, absurd requirement on us, you fought it. You have fought it consistently and with bravery. From masks in 2020 to the desolation of our police force in 21 to now this ridiculousness. And I just want to commend each and every one of you for having the bravery to stand up. The fight is yet from over. And, they've got 22 days, 345 bills left to go. So it's not yet over, but thank you all for being the sentries on the gate and for being in charge. I appreciate you all very much. With no other business before the Parker Town Council, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is made by Wilkes. I'm sorry. Motion by Hefta, seconded by Wilkes. Rivero.
Aye.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Wilkes.
Yes.
Dyak.
Yes.
Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes 6-0, and we're adjourned at 8:32.